What fantasy race was created exclusively to commit war crimes and then afterwards were sent out into the world to just live among the masses with the reputation that they are all just decommissioned weapons of mass destruction? The answer is Warforged. They are called Warforged for a reason. The quirky construct in your party was designed to kill first and ask questions never. I'd argue that anyone whose backstory for their Warforged isn't that they were created to fight in some long forgotten war, only to be abandoned once the battle was won, it's a sign that they're hiding something. What defines a Warforged isn't what they did on the battlefield, but instead what they did after the war. If you plan on them being civilians after the war, I think it was a bit of a design flaw to give all Warforged free will, but only give them the capacity to solve their problems through violence. It's like their creators wanted them to feel bad for doing what they were built to do. It is no wonder that so many of them become adventurers. It's one of the few professions left where you can just show up, ask who the enemy is, and start swinging. Sure, every once in a while you can make a backstory where someone decided to raise a Warforged like their own kid, but you have to remember that these things were basically mass produced to make an army. So you should end up with more grizzled war veterans than shut-in workshop helpers. These things come out of the box as full-grown adults with their skills already there. I don't really think there are many artificers teaching Warforged how to ride a bike for the first time or tie their shoes. They probably just pre-installed the idea that they were a supportive father and then immediately started making them do hard labor around the workshop. Warforged don't need food or water, so why do so many players try their hardest to roleplay themselves doing all these things? I get it's kind of funny when you go to the first tavern with the party and the Warforged player asks for some oil after everyone else orders an ale. Everyone laughs and then moves on with their night, but they won't have that same attitude when they're on the road with limited rations and the Warforged is still pretending they're suffering as bad as the rest of the party. A Warforged will claim they need to recharge each night, but I know they're lying just to get out of the night watch. There are a few things that Warforged have to do to maintain themselves, but if they miss their routine, that just means that they don't get their class features restored. For the average person, they'd be malnourished and exhausted to the point they're facing death, so a few missing spell slots would be the least of their worries. I get you want to be like other humanoids, but when a dungeon caves in, you can always just wait 300 years until a new group of adventurers dig you out. Your fleshy friends won't be as fortunate. Warforged seem to always be played as very literal because I guess when you spend most of your time on the battlefield, you don't really get a chance to learn about social cues. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really spend my youth as a child soldier, but I still sometimes struggle with social cues myself. At a certain point though, not understanding idioms stops being cute and starts being a liability. When the bard tells you to break a leg when it's time to put on a performance to distract the town guard, he isn't telling you to start snapping femurs. He just wanted you to put on a little show to distract the guards. I will admit, a deranged Warforged randomly attacking guards standing in the town square is probably going to get some attention, but it is a little higher stakes than the party probably intended. They were just trying to break into the mayor's manor for some quick coin, and now they'll be spending a whole lot more money to bribe the same mayor into letting the Warforged go. On the bright side, if he manages to escape the town guards, you can always tell the Warforged to lay low for a few days. The Warforged will most likely take it as an instruction to seek the lowest elevation they can find, flatten themselves against the floor, and power down for several days, which might actually help them avoid capture. I guess this is really only a downside if you don't understand how to talk to the Warforged in your party. Every Warforged seems to stress that they have little to no emotion, but when they explain their backstory, it sounds a lot like they're attempting to trauma dump with the rest of the party. It is always some basic pre-installed trauma like, what is my purpose, or who created me? But without the existential dread of knowing that you'll never have these answers before you die, it doesn't quite hit the same. As an adventurer, you're supposed to earn your trauma the old-fashioned way. You know, being raised as an orphan, destined for greatness, having your village burned down by some evil dragon that you'll swear you will kill one day, and if you're looking for some extra trauma, you can always make that dragon secretly one of your parents. Not really an option if you're a Warforged. With a limited amount of emotion and a limited childhood, it really seems like Warforged will never be able to out-angst their fellow party members. I always feel like Warforged characters treat their level ups like microtransactions instead of them actually improving their skills. For example, if you're a regular monk, being able to strike more times with a flurry of blows is presented as years of training in martial arts, resulting in you dealing additional attacks. If you are a Warforged monk, the reason that you can punch twice as much now is probably because you went to a shop and bought 2 additional arms. Maybe it's the jaded gamer in me, but that seems kinda pay to win to me. Back in my day, we had to earn our class features the old-fashioned way, harassing our dungeon master for a level up after every session until they eventually gave in. Nowadays, these Warforged players are asking for shiny new limbs instead of shiny new gear. My character would never have dreamed of chopping off a body part to become more powerful, unless it was the hand of Vecna, of course, or maybe the head of Vecna. Warforged names always seem to fall into 3 buckets: random numbers, some mythology reference to sound scary, or an acronym that comes across as a nerdy pun. You might think that last one is the wrong choice, but I don't mind someone who goes by Delve, but secretly it's short for Dungeon Explorer and Lost Valuable Extractor. I do mind, however, when someone insists I refer to them as 6-7 or the Prometheus Project in a normal conversation. I get that Warforged can be named after a number of outlandish things, but a name is something that you're going to have to repeat a lot over the course of a campaign. If you pick something super bizarre, there are going to be a lot of follow-up questions. Save yourself and the poor NPC commoners some time. I don't know if I've ever had a Warforged that joined my party through conventional means, like at a tavern or local adventurers guild. They are always introduced like a consolation prize when exploring a new area. Mattering on how long Warforged have existed in your campaign setting, there may be hundreds of them stuck in various environmental hazards. When a Warforged is the only person to survive a total party kill in a dangerous part of the world, it may take centuries for someone to discover them. Oh, you came into the ancient ruins to reclaim the Mad King's crown? Well, this goofy robot man accidentally sealed himself in the king's tomb after his previous party left him for dead. The Warforged doesn't have the crown, but he can help you track down his old party, who probably still has it in their possession. It's only been like 30 years since they left him in these ruins. How far could they have possibly gotten? So yeah, Warforged. They may have limited emotions, but they have a good memory and will be around for a long time, so it's best to stay on their good side. Sure, you can't share a meal with them, but they probably appreciate the ability to stare directly into your soul as you enjoy your meal. And if the camp ever gets ambushed, you're going to be glad that the weird robot guy was staring at you all night as you slept. Plus, you have to remember that even though they're considered by many as just leftovers of a long forgotten war, those leftovers still have a few war crimes left in them. And since they're in your party, that means that you can be the one benefiting from those war crimes. And wouldn't the real crime be not to let this old rust bucket have one more murder spree with some new pals? They have been searching all these years for purpose ever since they were cut loose. And you can remind them that if you were forged for war, might as well stick to what you were born to do. Warforged seem to forget that everyone is trying to find purpose in life. So when you find your calling early in life, it's best just to go with the flow. That is why Warforged are fantasy's most murderous clankers. If you liked the video, make sure to check out my other releases on the channel and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can use code LootGoblin at dnddice.com and get free shipping for purchases over $50, as well as free mystery dice sets when you place bigger orders. Be sure to check out the Artificer's Arsenal 11 dice set to have the perfect dice set for your recently decommissioned WMD. And check out all the other King of Crits exclusive designs. I'm a big fan of the Lich Lair dice tower and use their Plague Doctor dice in my own games. I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.